I apologize for being a tad bit tardy. I was running around trying to get some stuff done here, and again, my apologies for being a little bit late. But nevertheless, welcome back to the Wealth Builders live stream Q&A. Let me see if I can get my little self in here. Seems like, let's see, let's get out of there. I hope everybody is having a wonderful and fantastic Monday. Got a lot of big things happening this week. So I hope everybody is prepared to get themselves in a position where they can build wealth, man. I'm so excited about that opportunity for you guys. I'm excited about it for myself. And let's see here. Okay, looks like I'm having a little technical difficulties here. All right, let's see what we got going here. Maybe I won't be able to get in here, but let's see. Let's see if I can get in here and get this thing kicked off. Hopefully you guys got some questions for me. Let's see what we got here. Yep, we got some questions, so I appreciate that. It doesn't look like I'm gonna be able to get in where I want to get in, so we'll have to just go without it today, but we will go here. This is what we'll do. There we go. We'll just go there. There we go. Okay, let's see here. Got some questions. Welcome back to the 27th episode of the Wealth Builders. 27, guys. Can you, for me, that blows my mind. 27 in a row. We haven't missed one Monday since we started this thing. And I just want to say thank you to you guys for hanging in there and doing what you do every day in the community chat, on the main posts, on the homepage of Patreon, participating in the Wealth Builder Q&As. Thank you so much for just being a part of this wonderful community. I do want to say quickly that the whole purpose, at least my purpose, why I was so excited about creating this community, so that people could come somewhere and talk about building wealth, right? In the matrix out here, we can talk about this other stuff that's going on in the world, in the matrix. And all of that stuff is extremely important to each one of us. I get that. But we get that in the matrix. When we come inside this community, we want to focus on building wealth. We want to leave all this other stuff outside of this community and just focus on building wealth. Because when we get out of the community and go back to the real world and to the matrix, where a lot of us have to go back to, all of that stuff is there, right? So I just want this to be a safe place where a beginner, someone is just starting to build wealth, can come in here and feel like, you know something, even though I'm a beginner and I'm just starting out, I can go from nothing to everything I've ever wanted with the help of this community. And I want us to just be focused on that, right? And again, I know there are other things that are more important to you, for some of you, than building your wealth. I get that. But that doesn't mean everybody else feels that way. See, this is the thing we have to understand when we come into a community environment. Everybody don't believe what we believe. But for some reason, a lot of times, just being a human being, we think everybody should believe what we believe. And we will put building wealth on hold to make that fight. You're going to believe what I believe, and that's it. My way is the only way. The person that I'm voting for is the only person you should. This is what we do as human beings because we're human. That's why I don't want any of that in this community. I just want us to focus on building wealth. That's it. Just focus on building wealth, adding value every single day as best you can to help someone build wealth so that they can help you build wealth. Everything else we got to leave outside of the community. And I've made several posts this week. Matter of fact, the last couple of days, because I've had some conversations with some folks. And again, guys, my whole purpose of creating this community is so that we could fellowship together and build wealth together. We can't lose track of that. That's the whole point of it. And again, I understand some of us have strong beliefs in a lot of different things. That's okay. But when you come in here, it should be about building wealth and helping others build wealth. And how does that look? That means if something's working for you and it's a traditional investment, and it's a buy and hold, and it's working for you, and it's building your wealth, share that with people. If something's not working for you as it relates to building your wealth, share that with the community. That's what we're here for, right? So let's just make sure we focus on that. If we do focus on that, we'll be good. There are a lot of other communities outside of this one that focuses on social issues and politics and all that other stuff. There are plenty of other communities that focus on that stuff. And I would recommend, if someone is strongly wanting to be involved in that kind of stuff, they go find one of those communities and just come back to this community for the wealth building part. But for everything else, there are plenty other communities out there that you can tap into. And if you feel like that's what you need, go tap into them. And then come back here when you want to talk about building wealth. So thank you so much for listening to my little, I needed to get that out. So I appreciate y'all allowing me to do that. All right, let's dive on into these questions. Again, the theme is how to go from nothing to everything. And I believe all of us can do that. I've talked to many of you through direct messages and through email over my last 5 years of being on YouTube and building a YouTube channel and a business around just helping people. That's the whole thing that I do, right? The 3 Ps: people, passion, purpose. That's it for me. I never put money before people. It's always people first, because I understand if I help enough people get what they want, I ultimately get what I want. So you can go from nothing to everything. And a lot of us can identify with that because a lot of us have done that, including myself. A lot of us have went from nothing to everything. Now, here's the thing. Nothing to everything means something different to all of us. So we can't sit here and try to force on someone else what nothing to everything means to us. Nothing to everything means something different to me than the other folks that are in this community. Everybody has their own definition of nothing to everything. And this is what we have to realize. We cannot force the way we think on everybody else. We can't. Let's just accept what we believe and allow other people to accept what they believe, right? So let's go. Let's start with Sharon King. One of the original OGs, by the way, of this financial community, this wealth building community, Sharon King. Good evening, Richard. Good evening, Mr. Richard, and the Wealth Builder family. Greetings. My question, please explain the advantages and disadvantages of a HELOC line of credit and the advantages and disadvantages of using the equity in your home. Thanks again for all you do as well as encourage us to build wealth. Hey, Sharon, that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it. Now, again, I'm going to give you my experience using HELOCs in order to aid me in building my wealth. I'm a big believer in any financial tool that I can grab onto to help me build wealth, I'm going to use. And that includes the equity in my homes. For me, and I know many of you heard me say this, it's a dead asset. Your home is a dead asset unless you're generating income with it. So it's a dead asset. What does that mean? That means it's an asset, but it's not putting any money in your pocket. It's taking money out of your pocket. See, I just got my tax bill today for both of my houses here in the area that I live in. I just got the tax bill for them. And neither one of those properties create any income. So guess what they're going to have? This is what I'm going to have to do to pay them taxes. I'm going to have to dig in my pocket, pull the money out, and pay. Guess what? Those properties, neither one of them are putting any money in my pocket. That's a dead asset. So how do I use the equity in order to turn my properties into an asset that does put money in my pocket? Here's how I do it. I'll take an equity line and I will take some of the equity out of my house and I'll go buy another piece of real estate. I'll use some of the equity as a down payment on an additional piece of real estate. That real estate that I take equity out of this house or any other house that I have, and I put it in another house, that house has to have a tenant in it. I don't take equity from my house and go buy depreciating assets or things that don't put money in my pocket. So I would take equity out of this house or any other house that I own, and I would use that equity to put a down payment on an income producing piece of property. Now, before I take the equity and put it in that new property, I'm gonna do my homework. I'm gonna make sure the rental income for the new house is gonna be sufficient enough to do what? Pay all the expenses associated with that house, including the equity that I took out of this house. It has to be able to pay that equity back. Or I don't take the equity and put it in real estate if it can't generate enough income to pay back the equity line or pay for all the expenses associated with the property. Now, I've done this for many, many, many years, that I've taken equity from properties and I've rolled some of that equity into other properties, and the other property paid me back in two different ways. Number one way it pays me back immediately, instantly, is from the rental income, right? Because I'm not going to buy a property that didn't cash flow. So the rental income is the first way it pays me back. The second way it pays me back is through equity. As I hold that property, if it's in the right community, the right location where people have a desire to live, that property is going to go up in value. In the area that I live in Southwest Florida, that's about 3 to 5% a year. All I got to do is sit tight, be patient, and allow the equity to compound itself every single year. 3 to 5% every year, it will compound itself. So if I hold that property for 10 years and I pay 300 grand for it, right? And I get a 3%, let's say I get a 4% equity growth each year in appreciation. Hold it 10 years, that's a compounded 40% return. Times what? 300,000. That's $120,000 in equity I've built up in that house over the last 10 years by holding it in a good neighborhood and keeping tenants in it. And over that 10-year period of time, the tenant who pays me rent, I'm gonna take that rent, I'm gonna pay the mortgage, I'm gonna pay the taxes, I'm gonna pay the insurance, repair and maintenance, and I'm gonna pay back that line of credit. That's how I use equity in my house in order to invest in another asset that appreciates in value and creates income. The second way I use the equity in my house is to facilitate some type of online retail strategy. You guys know for a long time I flipped watches. For about 15 years, I flipped high-end luxury watches. I used the equity in my home through an equity line and my credit card limits to facilitate buying watches. And I came up with a strategy so that I could use the equity in my house. Instead of taking money out of my investments, I would just use the equity in the house. I would just use my credit cards through credit card arbitrage. And I didn't pay any interest on my credit cards. If you know how to use your credit cards properly and you understand the flow plus the grace period, it extends the period of time that you can use that money before the bank can force any interest on you. So I use those two techniques, the HELOCs and the credit card arbitrage through my credit cards. I use those two techniques in order to facilitate flipping luxury watches online, and I did it for 15 years. So I would use equity out of my house for that. What do I have to accomplish by doing that? I have to create income. I can't take the money from my property or HELOC unless I have a way to generate income with that money that I take from the HELOC. I can't just take the money and sit it in my checking account and start twiddling my thumbs thinking about, oh golly, I got this money in here and it's drawing interest and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to use it. Then you shouldn't have never taken it. Don't take money from anything unless you have a clear-cut pathway to create money. Until you got a clear-cut pathway, leave it where it's at. Figure out how you're gonna make money first. And then all you need is some money to go in it, and then all of a sudden you're making money. So that's what I did. And then the last thing I used the HELOCs for was a short-term strategy around buying and selling stocks through the stock market, right? I would take money from a HELOC and I would invest it in companies like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, companies like that I knew because I was from that industry. I spent 25 years in banking, so I know exactly how the banking industry works. And I knew Bank of America, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Citi, banks like that, US Bank, they're gonna be fine. The government ain't gonna let them fail. They're gonna be fine. Stock price gonna be fine. So I would take, when it was down, let's say Bank of America was trading back in 2020. Bank of America was trading at basically $20 to 25, maybe even under that a share. I think they may even went under 20 at one point. See, then I would go in and buy those shares at those low prices because I believed that at some point Bank of America would recover. So I would take money from the HELOC, I'd put it in there, and I'd wait, right? Now, another thing with HELOCs, I would only really use the HELOCs in low interest rate environments. I would not be using HELOCs in this high interest rate environment because you never know. Anything with my strategy could change. I may have to stay in those stocks for a year. I don't want to have to pay 7 or 8% interest on a HELOC if I can't quickly convert and pay it back. So I typically don't use HELOCs or credit card arbitrage in high interest rate environments. Now, as interest rates come down and I can go to my bank and get a HELOC for prime plus 0 and prime's 3.5%, now I can use it, right? But I can't do it when prime is 7%, right? For me, it's a little uncomfortable. So you got to understand what you're going to be using the money for. You got to have a plan to make money with that equity. I never take equity from anything and put it into something else that doesn't increase in equity or doesn't generate income. So hopefully, Sharon, that helped you understand how I use equity lines. Others may use it totally different, but that's the 3 ways I used it, right? Down payment on real estate that would generate income. I would use it in an online retail strategy. For me, it was luxury watch sales. And then 3, short-term, buying and selling stocks in industries that I know and understand. I would never take money out of my house and put it in a stock that I don't know anything about and I'm not comfortable with. I would only do that if it's in an industry that I understand. And banking is an industry that I do understand. So those are the 3 ways I use my equity. And again, not in high interest rate environments. When rates come down, I can borrow the money very inexpensively in that 2 to 3%, 3.5% range. Then at that point, it makes sense. But at 7%, it don't make sense. Not for me, it doesn't. Money Mac. Greetings to all and glad to be here as always. SPLG and FTEC with a dash of NVIDIA is my usual with my little income. You know, Money Mac, man, I gotta say, I love the strategy. I love the strategy. I don't care what nobody say. I love that strategy. SPLG, why? Because you got your S&P 500 ETF, big boy blue chip. Love it, right? You know what that thing has done this year, right? Somewhere in that 20% range. And then you follow that up with an industry-specific ETF like FTEC, specifically information technology. I love that. Why? Go look at what FTEC has done this year. It's around 20% as well. So Money Mac, and here's the beautiful thing about it. He ain't got to be the expert. See, Money Mac ain't got to be picking no individual stocks or doing none of that stuff. It's all done for him by the fund. See, these funds are just tracking an index or a sector. Money Mac ain't got to worry about changing any companies in, taking them out, putting them in. He ain't got to worry about any of that because the fund does it. So he increases his opportunity to build wealth because he doesn't have to be the expert. He's not on the hook to pick winners and losers. Now, when Money Mac decides he wants to buy NVIDIA, now Money Mac becomes the expert. Now, he has to pick winners and losers, right? He becomes the expert when he picks individual stocks. You got to be the expert. But when I'm in ETFs, guys, if I'm in the right ETFs, I don't have to be the expert. all I got to be is disciplined, consistent, and patient. And just S&P 500 going to deliver long-term, guys. It always has. And again, I'm not trying to tell you there won't be setbacks in the S&P. Go back to 2022. There was a nice little setback. It was a negative 20%. But over a 10-year block of time, guys, you're not going to be able to go find a 10-year block of time where the S&P 500 hadn't been positive. There's not a 10-year period. I'm talking about consecutive 10-year block out of 90 or 100 years where it's been negative. You might get 1 or 2 years, but not 10 years. So that's why it's so powerful using ETFs like the S&P 500 index and being tracked by SPLG or VOO or some of these others that track the S&P 500 index. And the same thing, if you go look at information technology as a sector, you go look at the sector that FTEC tracks, go do the same 10-year block of time. You can't, in my opinion, if you're trying to build wealth and you're brand new and you don't want to be on the hook for picking winners and losers, that's the direction you got to go, in my opinion. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just telling you, over 30 years, that's how I built my wealth, is through that strategy. Money Mac, the strategy he's using, that was my strategy. It's just recently, guys, I've been purchasing more individual stocks because I got more wealth. I can do a little bit. I can take a little more risk. If I lose something, it ain't going to devastate me. But when I was coming 26 to 40, 45 years old, I couldn't be devastated in no individual stocks. I had to stay with ETFs. I couldn't lose that. I couldn't. So for me, it was always ETFs. Even today, it's still 80% ETFs, 20% stocks, because I don't want to be the expert. So good job, Money Mac. What else do you got to say here? Time in the market is better than time in the market, but got lucky on holding out for a bit of NVIDIA while it was at 133 a share, along with 2 ETFs that were also lower and made out like a fat cat. I like that. I love your attitude, Money Mac. Love it, man. Love it. Thank you, Rich, and everyone with input and support. Let's go. See, that's what this community does. You got a guy like Money Mac, and I'm assuming that's a guy, that comes in here in a community like this with limited investment experience. He gets a hold of a blueprint that he looks at and he says, you know something, I've been checking this guy out for a couple of years. Let me try this blueprint. Then he also says, you know something, I know I want to expand my financial intellect. I want to get my financial literacy up. So let me go to the chat. Let me start finding out what others are doing in here. And guess what? He learned. You guys helped him learn. And now what is he doing? He's executing. See, that's what the community is about, guys. And that's what we got to stick to. Money Mac, thank you, man. I appreciate you. Great story. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep the main thing. And just stay in where you fit in. You'll be all right. Man, appreciate that. That gave me goosebumps. Blaine Booker. Hey, everybody. How's the wealth building family? Hope you all are well and making money. Blaine, I'm doing great. And I'm pretty sure that the rest of the wealth builders are doing great as well. I think this week is a critical week. Listen, for me, guys, all 52 weeks are critical. See, I don't look at one week as there is no opportunity. Every week I go into, I'm looking for opportunities. Every week, 52 weeks a year, 365 days a year, I'm looking for opportunities. Even on Saturdays and Sundays, I'm looking for opportunities because they're there. They're there. So Blaine, I'm doing great, and I'm sure the rest of the wealth builders are doing great as well. And we'll appreciate you being part of this group. Miss MJ, hello, Mr. Fain and wealth builders. Can you please break down one more time what a person should do once they get their first 100,000 in their portfolio? Please and thanks. First 100,000, right? Because a lot of people say that's the turning point. For me, it was a turning point, right? It was a turning point. And then once I got to the first 100,000, I said, you know something, I want to add one more zero. That's $1 million, right? Now, some of you may say to yourself, Richard, that's not my goal. I ain't trying to get to $1 million. But then don't get there. It's pretty simple. If that's not your goal, then whatever your goal is, then you fill in the blanks. My goal was to get my net worth as high as I can get it, so I own 100% of my time. That was my goal. Your goal might be different. But when you get that 100,000, in my opinion, what do? You do the same thing you did to get to the 100,000. You just continue to rinse and repeat, but you go larger. You go bigger. How did I do that? Well, I did it with real estate and with the stock market. That's what I did. I told y'all every 2 years I bought a piece of real estate. And by the time I got to 35, I said, you know something, it's time to step it up. That's when the side hustles came in. That was the critical turning point for me, Miss MJ. And I know you working your tail off to get your business up and running. I know you are. But that's the turning point, guys, for me at least. I had a 9-to-5, I was making good money and I was plugging right along. I was buying my property every 2 years. You know what I'm saying? I was taking money from the check and putting it in the 401k, but I had a family. I had bills to pay too. So my salary was great, but it wasn't to the point where I could just, you know what I'm saying, do anything I wanted to do. No. When I made the decision at 35 that I was going to add side hustles, that's when it exploded for me. Because guess what happened? All of that side hustle money, I would take and I would pour it on assets. It was not encumbered by bills. My regular salary that I went to work every day for took care of the bills and the 401k contribution. And then the real estate properties, I told you I don't buy real estate unless they make money. They took care of themselves. But I didn't really have any money left over out of the 9-to-5 paycheck to really blow this thing up the way I wanted to. So at 35, I had to come up with a strategy, and that strategy was get you some side hustles, man. And that's what I did, Miss MJ. So I tell people all the time, if you want to pour gasoline, on your financial fire to make it bigger, get you some side hustles. Because that money you get from them side hustles it's gonna be unencumbered. That means that it's not gonna have to pay bills or nothing if you're living the financial principles that we talk about. If you're living on less than what you make, you're living on a plan, you're staying out of consumer debt, you're saving and investing, then you shouldn't have no problem with your side hustle money taking and putting it straight in investments if you're living on those 4 financial principles. That's why I talk about them over and over on this YouTube channel, and it's repetitive because that's the key, guys. You got to take that 9-to-5 income and you got to live those 4 financial principles, period. And then you got to backdoor that with some side hustles. And you take that side hustle money and that's where you change the game, right? That's where it exploded for me, Miss MJ. So I got to that about 35 years old. I probably was, I don't know, $500,000 to $750,000, something like that. And don't get me wrong, that was on paper. That was mostly in real estate. That was in the 401k. But if you looked at me outside of those 2 assets, I didn't have any cash, right? I lived a decent life. I had to take care of my family. But outside of the real estate equity, and again, it's equity. It's unrealized equity. I can't do anything with that equity other than extract it and buy more real estate, or extract it and buy things that I shouldn't be buying, right? So I wasn't going to do that. So the real estate portfolio had a plan. The plan was keep this thing 15 or 20 years. When you get to 50 years old or close to 50, start selling it. That was the plan on the real estate. And I wasn't there yet. I had 10 more years, like 10 to 15 years to go. So I wasn't fully done with the real estate. So there was nothing I could do with that other than just keep buying one every 2 years. And then over here, I would take money from the 401k and I would throw it in I would take money from my paycheck and throw it in the 401k pre-tax. But at the time, I didn't even have any traditional brokerage accounts because I didn't have any money left. Side hustles. So when I created that luxury watch sales side hustle, I started out small and I got bigger. It got bigger. Where it was matching almost what I was making in the banking industry, just from the side hustle. So I could take all of that money and I started doing what with it? I created taxable brokerage accounts at that point because I was already funding the 401k. So you can only put so much money in a 401k, right? The rest of it, I created a Roth, and then I created the taxable brokerage accounts, and that's where I was putting it along with buying more real estate. So for me, Miss MJ, it was all about going from, where I was at the time at 35, which I was not a millionaire. I was close, but I wasn't, to taking myself to the next level. And the way I did that was through them side hustles. But I would have never did it had I not been living on the 4 financial principles with my 9-to-5 income. See, I can't have a raggedy mind frame and a raggedy, behavior with money on the 9-to-5 money because I'm going to carry that over to the side hustle money too. If I'm raggedy with the 9-to-5 money, I'm going to be raggedy with the side hustle money. Let's not fool ourselves. If I can't manage my normal income right, how in the world am I going to manage side hustle income? I'm not. Oh, I'm going to manage the side hustle income excellently, but I'm just going to screw up and mess up my 9-to-5 income. That's not how people are wired. You one way or the other. You got a good behavior with money or you got a raggedy behavior with money. That's it. So you got to be living the 4 financial principles on the 9-to-5 income, guys. So when you do roll into the side hustles or the secondary incomes, you already have the right millionaire mindset in place. So it'll be easy for you to take that money and you won't be tempted to go buy things to make other people wealthy. But if you're doing that with the 9-to-5 income, you're going to do it with the side hustle income too. So be careful of that, Mrs. MJ. As you build out your businesses, make sure whatever primary income you have now, you right size it and get your mindset right and get to live in those 4 financial principles. Get that right first. And then when the side hustle money, it'll be easy to just put it in the investments. All right, let's keep moving. Skip. Good evening, Coach. I hope all is well for you during this stressful time for our country. Along those lines, Elon's behavior has me reconsidering my long-term position in Tesla. I invest in Tesla because I'm investing in not only the company, but the CEO and his vision. I just don't think Elon is focused on business growth and development. Based on your experience and time in the market, could you give me your thoughts? I either want to sell now, invest. Let me make sure I get this right. I don't want to mess this up. Based on your experience and time in the market, could you give me your thoughts? I either want to sell and now invest in the Magnificent Six, or just not DCA into Tesla anymore and hold what I have. I have FOMO since I see the potential, but part of me is just saying sell my shares and redistribute them into the other Mag 6 companies. Thanks in advance. I try to get this question in earlier so you would have time to think about it and paraphrase the question because it's long. Sorry about the length. No problem at all. Skip. I got you. I know what you're saying. Here's the thing. And I've been telling y'all this for a long time about Tesla. I believe in Tesla. But I also understand Elon is a different cat, right? He got a lot of different things he's focused on. When he's laser focused on Tesla, they do well. Just like this last report came out, they did well. Stock price went up. That's when he's focused. When he's unfocused and his attention is elsewhere, that's when I think Tesla slides. Now, for me, I've been buying Tesla through DCA through the Mag 7. But you noticed I haven't went into my lump sum cash reserves and made any big purchases like I've done with NVIDIA or what is it? SMCI? What's the name of that company? Super Micro Computer. That's it. Super Micro Computer. I just made an investment in that. So I haven't done that on Tesla in a long time because of that reason. I said to myself, if they can't get the robo-taxi thing right, they're just another EV company, in my opinion. So can they scale from $250 a share to $1,000 a share without having a robo-taxi thing and all that other autonomy? I don't think they can. Now, again, I'm no expert on Tesla. I'm no expert on anything. I'm just telling you my opinion, Skip. So therefore, for me, I don't buy it in large quantities anymore until it gets down to $150 a share. If it doesn't, I just won't buy it. I'll just do it through the dollar cost averaging, because that's what I do in the Magnificent Seven. I just take all 7 companies, divide whatever I'm investing into 7 pieces, and I fractional share trade it in. So I'm gonna continue buying Tesla that way, but I would never right now take a big lump sum of money, of my money, and go buy Tesla. Not right now. Because for me, they're just another EV company unless they do something to separate themselves. And I think the robo-taxi, the autonomous driving, and all that stuff is really where they push the stock price higher, in my opinion. So for you, of course, I can't tell you what to do, but if I'm not happy with an investment, I just get out. Skip. When I'm not happy with an investment, I don't care if it's the Magnificent Seven or whatever it is. If I'm no longer happy with it and I don't believe it gets me to my pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, I exit. Period. I exit and I find me another company. Or what do? I go into Magnificent Six. I just redistribute and put it all in the Magnificent, if that's me, right? If I get to a point where I'm DCAing into the Magnificent Seven and I just get disgruntled with the CEO, and I agree with you, buy the CEO, not the stock, right? If I get disgruntled with the CEO and I just don't believe in the CEO anymore, I can't buy any, I just can't be a part of the company. I can't be a shareholder anymore. So I take that DCA and I redistribute it in the Magnificent Six, or I add another company in and I call it whatever I want to call it. So that's my opinion. You have to figure that one out. But if I'm not happy with a company, I'm not happy with the CEO, I don't believe in what he's pitching, I'm gone. I'm out. Period. I'll find me a different company. So hopefully that helps, Skip. Only Lord knows. Hello all. I hope everyone is doing well and being safe out there. These are weird times. Horns honking, flags waving. Wait, let me make sure I go back to that. Horns honking and flags flying everywhere. It's like the political Super Bowl. Not trying to be political, but my question is, Richard, in your opinion, do you think it matters who wins the presidency for how the markets will react? I definitely have my own opinions on this matter. I am not asking who you are voting for. I just want to get your take. God bless you and much love to you, Richard and family. Lord only knows, hey man, I know where you're coming from. And here's my truth. My truth is for Richard Fain, not for you, but for Richard Fain, I could care less. Now, did I do my duty as an American citizen? Yes, I've already done that. I've done my duty. I voted as an American citizen. That's my constitutional right. That's the way I make my voice heard. All the rest of this stuff, I ain't got nothing to do with all that. All this fighting online and bumping people in the grocery, I don't have no time for all of that. I've done my duty as an American citizen. I voted. That's it. Outside of that, whoever they put in that seat in the Oval Office ain't gonna come to Richard Fain's house and knock on the door. They're not gonna call me. They're not gonna say anything to me and help me to build my wealth. Nothing. That's my opinion now. That doesn't mean that needs to be your opinion. My opinion is one person does not control and run this country, guys. The 1% control and run this country. Last time I looked, we've had, 45 presidents? 44, 45, something like that? Guess what? There are a lot of wealthy people in this country. So does it matter, Democrat or Republican? It really doesn't, guys. Stock market is not going to stop. It doesn't matter who gets in the White House. Do you think the stock market, oh golly, that person won, so let's just shut it all down and that's it. It's over. Come on, guys. People out here to make money, man. They're going to continue to make money. So whoever gets in there, God bless them. I'm an American citizen. I'm going to fall in line. And that's my president. That's it. You think I'm going to waste any more time worried about that? No. I'm trying to build wealth, man, so I can control 100% of my time. I ain't got time to be worried about nobody who's sitting in the White House. Oh, what if that person pulls the trigger on the nuclear weapons? What if that person lets all illegal aliens in? Listen, man, I can't control none of that. So why am I sitting here thinking about something I can't control? Guess what I can control? Voting. That's what I control. Guess what else I can control? What I do with my money to build wealth. Another thing I can tell you, the stock market is not going to stop moving. Now, could it waffle a little bit for a few days? Sure. But I promise you this, it will restart again. And people are going to continue to multiply money and build wealth in it, no matter who's sitting in that White House seat. So guys, please control what you can control. Outside of that, focus on what you can control in your life and build your wealth so that you can control 100% of your time. Now, you got my honest answer. Let's move on. Here we go. Khalid, hey, Richard, I understand managing the activities of 1,000+ members could be a stressful and challenging task. Would it be possible to have moderators who can support in handling that under your supervision? Thanks a lot for having a safe place to communicate and collaborate with each other. Have a wonderful day. Khalid, that's a great question. And here's the thing. I control 100% of my time. This is what I do. There's no other, oh golly, let me let somebody else do this because I got to go over here and go to work or do this other stuff. Guys, this is what I do. This is what I do. This is what I'm passionate about. This is my purpose in life. People. Passion, purpose, people. So I don't need a moderator in here. What I am going to get crystal clear on by defining what some community rules are, and I'll be amending those and putting them in the community, is for us to just concentrate on building wealth. That's not a lot to ask. It's just focus on building wealth. If it doesn't help people build wealth, don't put it in the community chat. Again, these social referendums that we put in the chat sometimes, these social referendums, those are great, guys. But guess what? Everybody don't believe what you believe. See, this is what we got to figure out. Everybody don't believe what you believe. So no, I don't necessarily need moderators. What I got to get better at is making sure inside of the community, I list what the community mission is and what the community rules are. So I take responsibility for that and I'll fix it. But my ask is we just focus on building wealth. All the social referendums and the political stuff and all of this and all of that, wars and fighting war. What are we talking about all that for in here? We're here to build wealth, right? So let's just focus on that. If it gets to a point where I decide I want to do other things in my life and not focus all my time on what I do every day that I love, then I will get a moderator. But for right now, I don't need a moderator because this is what I do. I'm in the chat every day. I know exactly what's going on and I know exactly who's doing it and who's doing what and who's not doing what. I know that. My job here as a creator of this community is to make sure it's a safe place for every member, every wealth builder, every one of them. I don't care if I got 10,000 of them in here. It's still my responsibility, even with moderators. It's my responsibility because I started this thing, right? I'm never going to start something and then turn it over to somebody else where I go do whatever I do and not care about what's going on with the people in the community. And I know, Kali, that's not what you're saying. I know what you're saying. You're just saying, hey, man, get some help. When I need help, I will ask for it. At this point, I don't need help. What I need is to be clearer with what the expectation is in this community. That's my fault, and I will make sure I correct that. All right, let's keep moving on. Nvidia, which I believe that's John. Hey, Rich, was thinking about taking a loan from my 401k to get completely out of debt. Only a small amount, like $5K. I am not planning to retire for another 6 to 7 years. And I'm 59 and a half years old, so I won't have to pay a penalty. Should a layoff occur, do you think this is a good idea or not? Well, here's the thing, John. I mean, obviously your situation is your situation and you got to figure that one out. But if you're asking my opinion, which you are, I'm just a big believer in not taking assets and paying off liabilities. I'm just not a big believer in taking while I'm in the building stage of wealth, right? Now, if I'm in the enjoyment stage of wealth and I got a mortgage over here and I'm getting a little older and I'm not going to be working and I want to pay that mortgage off, will I take money from my investments and pay off the mortgage? Yes, right? I do that. But while I'm still working and I'm still actively working and I'm still actively trying to build wealth, you got to ask yourself this question. How much is the interest rate on the debt, right? Ask yourself this. How much is the interest rate on the debt? And then you got to say to yourself, how much is the interest rate I'm getting on my investments, right? I had this question come from another community member. She asked me this, roughly the same thing. And I told her the same scenario. I said, you got to look at the interest rate on the debt, and then you look at the interest rate on the investments. For example, let's say the interest rate on the debt is 8%, right? Interest rate on the debt, 8%, which is pretty high. Let's say your investments this year are returning 20%. Which one is higher? 8% higher or the 20% higher? So for me, it would be hard for me to take money from an investment that's returning a 20% return to me to pay off a debt that's costing me 8%. That would be hard for me to do. Now, let's flip-flop it. Let's say my debt is 20% and I'm getting an 8% return on the money, right? If I take the 8% money and pay off the 20% money, it's just like me getting a 12% return on my money. Why? Because I'm paying 20% over here and I'm getting 8% in growth, but I'm paying 20% in interest. So now I take the money from the 8%, apply it to the 20%, I just returned 12% to me on that money. In that scenario, I'm okay with that as long as you've learned your lesson when it comes to this debt. Now, I don't know what kind of debt it is, but whatever kind of debt it is, right? Clearly, it's debt that's not putting money in your pocket, or you wouldn't be going over here to the 401k or wherever you're going to go to get the money. You wouldn't. If it was a real estate property, or if it was a business, or if it was, a side hustle that you were making money on, then the side hustle, the business, the real estate property would be paying the debt, right? So that's the scenario I would look at. I'd look at, what am I paying on the debt? What am I getting on the money in the return? Let's say you're getting the 20% over here, you got the 8% here, and you're saying to yourself, that doesn't look like a fair trade-off. Yeah, I know I saved the monthly payment, but really, I'm really, I'm taking money out of this thing that's doing 20%. What is another way I can pay it off? Side hustle. I would just find me a side hustle for 6 months, nail it, get the $5,000, pay the thing off, and be done. I'd find me some little side hustle I can do to pay off this $5,000, right? And then if you want to continue the side hustle, do it. If not, let it go. Debt paid off, money stays in there getting 20%, and the debt paid off. That would be my recommendation, John, is to look at those scenarios. I'm just not a big believer in taking money out of something that's earning more money than you're paying on the debt. I'm just, if it's paying you a higher rate of return than you're paying on the debt, it'd be hard for me in my situation to take money and disrupt that. I would just go get me a side hustle and knock out the debt. Because I tell people that all the time. I say, guys, get a side hustle. And nobody says you got to do it for the rest of your life, but get your side hustle for 6 months, 8 months, and knock out that debt and learn something, and don't get back in that situation again. So, all right, let me see what else we got here. Let me see, question-wise, let's see if we got anything else. Maybe I missed something, maybe I didn't. Let's see. Let's see what we got here. Let's see here. Let's see if we got anything in here. All right, so here we go. Let's see. Yep, look like we got a couple more questions here. Let's see. All right, so D Fortune. Good evening, Richard. Hope all is well. My question is, what stance might the new administration take on regulations, particularly in industries like finance and tech? And how could this impact stock prices in those sectors? Okay, great question, D Fortune. And again, for me, you got to understand how it works in this country, right? So you got a president, right? But you also have Congress. That's the House of Representatives and the Senate. That's another branch of the government. You got the president and you got them, right? So president can't just go in and do whatever they want to do all the time. They can't just say, well, okay, we're going to pick out these 5 companies and you better not do. You can't just do that. So if you come up with something that you want passed, you got to get it through Congress, right? Now, let's say Congress is on your side. Let's say they're on your side. Listen, man, who do you think put all those people in Congress? These big companies. Who do you think put the president in the seat? These companies, guys. This is why I tell y'all, I don't care who's sitting in that seat. I don't care who's in Congress. They got put in those seats by these people in these companies. That's who do you think who do you think paying the lobbyists? Who do you think are up there lobbying? These companies. So again, will there be some regulations? Sure. But this whole notion of, you know something, we're gonna sock it to China and make sure NVIDIA or any of these other companies don't sell them into their advanced chips. Come on, guys, do you really believe that? What do you think Apple makes its iPhone? What do you think a lot of these companies make their widgets and gadgets and clothes and shoes and all this stuff? In these other countries. So I know it sounds great for a sound bite. Oh, we're gonna stop them from sending chips. You think that's gonna stop China from getting advanced chips, guys? Come on. No. And again, China is our trading partner. They're our biggest trading partner. We're at the hip with China, guys. We're their biggest trading partner. They're our biggest trading partner, at least in my opinion. Right? I'm no expert in that, but I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you guys, I've been around a long time, 30 years doing this. Many presidents. Many presidents. Over 30 years, many presidents. And I've not seen one of them, whether a Democrat or a Republican, that has stopped the stock market, that have stopped companies. No. Now, can there be a regulation? Sure. I don't know. But guess what will happen, though? Companies will just find a way around it. They will. Guys, you cannot stop progress, right? You can't. Again, these regulations, could they? Yeah. I mean, any administration could do what they want. But again, you got to get it past Congress. You got to get Congress on board. And again, everybody in the House of Representatives, everybody in the Senate, plus that person sitting in the White House in the Oval Office, guess who put them there? Big corporate. That's who put them there. The wealthiest of the wealthy. Come on, guys. See, this is what I keep telling y'all. The wealthy of the wealthy put these people there. Stock market's been around how long? 100 years? The modern stock market. 100 years? 140 years? These companies ain't going nowhere. Now, when companies go down, guys, that's because of their inability to change, their inability to pivot, their inability to run their company effectively. Rarely do you see a company taken down by the United States government and their regulations. Rarely. Rarely. Look at big tobacco. They ain't took them down yet. And big tobacco, y'all know tobacco smoking, it's not a sexy thing. You don't see no commercials, you don't see nothing. But guess what? Probably one of the most profitable businesses in the world. The tobacco industry. You don't see no commercials. You don't see no advertisements. But yet and still, go look at the balance sheet and the income statement of some of these tobacco companies, cigarette companies. Some of the biggest in the world. This is what I'm telling you. They didn't destroy them. Did they pass regulations on them too? But did it destroy the industry? No. Right? So all I'm telling you is if it's a good industry, it's an industry that provides a vital product or service, they're not going to cripple the industry. That's my opinion. Can they pass regulations to? Yes. But the total destruction of an industry because of regulations that they pass, I don't believe in that. In my 30 years, I ain't seen it done. Maybe you guys have, I haven't. So for me, it's all about what? Finding the industries that are the future. That's what it's about for me. Finding industries that are the future. Finding industries people need, right? Finding industries people need and finding industries that are the future. And I think tech is the future. So for me, I focus on tech. Can you put a regulation on some of these companies that they can't sell to China? Sure, you can do that. Sure, you can. But guess what? They'll just sell to another country, and then that country will sell it to China. I mean, come on. You can't stop China from getting chips. You going to stop them from selling to anybody in the whole world? You think they won't do that? They'll sell to some other country that'll ship it right to China. So I would say, can it happen? Sure. Is it likely? No. Not with the next president. It's not likely, right? It's not likely. In my opinion, that is. Let's see here. We got Organic Olive, excited to run with the Wealth Builders fam to finish 2024 and get an early start to 2025. Thanks, Richard, for your consistency. Organic Olive, thank you. Appreciate you. I think you're one of our newer community members, so thank you so much for investing in us and being a part of this. We feel good about it, and stick around. I want you to participate, and I think you'll see there's a lot of good information that you can learn from other, community members. So just tap in as much as you can. Corey, let's see here what Corey has to say. Good evening, Richard and Wealth Builder family. Richard, 2 questions. If you had to do it over at 42, knowing what you know now, what would be your strategy for financial wealth? S&P 500, individual stocks, real estate, or a combination of them all? To answer that first question, Corey, yes, combination of them all. Number one thing I do is make sure my mindset's right? I got to be under those 4 financial principles. That's number one. Before I make one investment, I got to have my mindset right. And the only way I'm going to have my mindset right is I got to have a good behavior with money. So I got to be living on less than what I make. I got to be living on a plan, which is a personal budget that I understand every dollar coming in, every dollar going out. Number 3, I got to understand that I cannot build wealth the way I want to build wealth if I'm saddled with consumer debt. Because every dollar I spend on consumer debt is one less dollar that I'm multiplying in big boy blue chip assets, right? So I got to stay out of consumer debt. And then the 4th thing, I got to save, which is a 3 to 6 month emergency fund, just in case I hit a financial bump in the road. And then the invest part is what? I got to be buying big boy blue chip, right? And like you said, I'd be doing a combination of all those things: paper assets, real estate, business, whether it be a full business or a side hustle. I would be doing all of those things at once. All of them, right? Now, if I could only start with one, it'd be paper assets, right? Because I don't need to go get a mortgage. I don't need to have down payment money, right? I don't need to have good credit. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to have a verifiable income for 2 years. I don't need any of that to buy stocks or ETFs. Now, how would I structure my portfolio? 50, 30, 20. That's the wealth transfer blueprint. I don't care what age I am. I structure the portfolio 50, 30, 20. 50% broad-based stock market ETF like an S&P 500 ETF. That's 50% of the portfolio. 30% industry-specific ETF. Yours truly, I like tech, so I go information technology. But hey, you might like healthcare. You might like energy. You might like real estate. Whatever you like, find that industry and boom, that's where 30% would go. So 80% ETFs, 20% individual stocks. That's the portfolio. And I just double down on it as much as I can every month, every year, every decade until I hit my goals. And then once I get that going, then I focus on another asset class. But for me, it would probably be real estate. I'd start looking at real estate for income, buying good neighborhoods where people have a desire to live, right? Do your one every 2 years and then set a goal for yourself. Okay, I'm gonna do one every 2 years and I want 5, or I want 10, right? Or I want a certain dollar amount in equity over the next 10 years in these properties. That's what I did. I said, I want $1 million worth of equity minimum in these properties. And I'm gonna hold them as long as I need to hold them to get that. That was my goal with real estate. It was never to hold real estate for the rest of my life. It was to get to a 7-figure net worth in equity in real estate. That was my goal, and that's what I hung my hat on. And then the third thing you can do is, like I said, you could start a business if you desire to. But yeah, no matter what age I am, if I'm still in the building stage of wealth, it doesn't change. That's what I do with my wealth. That's what I do to build my wealth, those simple steps, right? Now, your second question is, what are your thoughts on playing as the bank by acquiring whole life insurance where you can take money out of it, basically loan for yourself and pay it back? That's not something that I would do, Corey. And I'm speaking from experience. From probably about 26 years old to about 35, I had these whole life policies. And again, they never outperformed any of my 401k investments. Never outperformed them. Most of the money that I was paying into the policy was going to administrative fees. See, I didn't know that at the beginning because I'm brand new, I'm young, I'm thinking whole life is sexy, can build wealth, plus you protect your family, all this other stuff. And again, guys, this is my opinion. You may feel differently. Maybe your experience is totally different, and that's okay. But Corey asked me, so I'm gonna give him my experience. My experience in owning those things for about 9 years was they didn't outperform any of my portfolio in the 401ks. They didn't. And when I really got smart and started really looking at the statement and finding out exactly where that premium that I was paying was going, a big chunk of it was going to administrative fees. A part of it was going to death benefit coverage. And then the other part was going into some investment that was not outperforming my 401ks. So I said to myself, why would you do that, Richard? Why wouldn't you just go get term life and cover your beneficiaries, your children, in the event you died and passed away and your income was snatched? This term policy would cover your income for 20 years. How about just do that and pay $50 a month for $1 million worth of coverage on a 20-year level? Why not just do that? Why would you be paying these people $2,000 a quarter when 1,000 of it is going to administrative fees and all this other stuff that they charge you for? Now, again, guys, this is my experience. That doesn't mean it's your experience. So for me, Corey, after I realized what I was doing, I surrendered the policy, took my whatever I had left in there, and I rolled it over into a regular, I didn't roll it over into anything because I didn't have any taxes to pay, because guess what happened? 9 years in this thing, my premiums I paid was more than the investment benefit. It was more, the premiums that I had paid in. So there was no tax consequence. So I just took my money, that whatever was in my account, my cash account, I just took it. My premiums that I paid, the money that I put in, was more than what I got out of there. So I didn't really have to pay any taxes or anything. So I just took that money and did what with it? I just put it in a taxable brokerage account and started investing in normal investments. So for me, my experience was not that good with whole life. I just satisfied what I needed to satisfy with term life. Because the whole purpose for me initially was, hey, I just want to cover my children just in case my income is taken away through death, or I can't, through death. I just need to make sure my kids protected and they have money to live, and the mom can take care of them. So for me, I just went out and got a level, 20-year level. At 35 years old, I got a 20-year level term policy. It cost me $50 a month for 20 years. So if I died, boom, get $1 million. There you go. Take care of the kids. They're good to go. Send them to college. Boom. So, and then I just took that $2,000 I was spending, instead of taking that $2,000 a quarter or what's that, 4 quarters, 8 grand a year, that 8 grand, now it turns into $600 a year because I'm getting a $50 a month term policy, getting the same coverage. Matter of fact, I had more coverage. Took that $7,200, $7,300, $7,400 and I started investing it. So for me, at the level I'm at, it doesn't make no sense. Now, if I'm some person that got $50 million and I'm trying to avoid estate taxes for my kids when I pass on, would I buy whole life so that whole life policy, since it doesn't have a term on it, right? Doesn't have any, if I get sick or something like that, it can't, it doesn't have a term on it. So what a lot of rich people do, they will buy these whole life policies to pay the estate taxes on their real money so that they can pass to their kids. And then when they die, they get the death benefit from the whole life policy and they pay the estate taxes. And then they get the rest of the estate to them free and clear. See, a lot of wealthy people do that in a tax bracket way higher than mine. But I ain't got that kind of wealth. So I ain't gonna have no estate taxes to pay. Because I think estate tax, what, 5 million, 7 million, 10 million, something like that. I don't plan on leaving this planet with $10 million. I'm gonna spend mine, and whatever's left, my kids get it. They grown, right? They get what's left. I ain't trying to leave no $10 million to nobody. I'm gonna spend mine in my lifestyle, enjoy myself, and what's left the kids get because they're grown. I'm not trying to leave grown kids, a golden parachute. I'm gonna leave them what's left. It's gonna be some left, but it ain't gonna be me. Oh golly, I'm not gonna take a trip to Bermuda because that might be $20,000, and that may be $20,000 the kids can't get. No, I'm not gonna live like that, right? So all I'm telling you is just do your due diligence, make your decision, right? Everybody got a different decision on this. My decision is in line with Dave Ramsey, though. That's one thing I do agree with Dave on. He feels the same way about these whole life policies, right? Same way I feel. So you go do your homework on that one and figure that one out. But I gave you my opinion. Valerie Robinson. Good evening, Richard and Wealth Builders. I finally caught a live presentation. Well, Valerie, we are so happy to have you. Hopefully you got something out of this thing. Let's see if we got any more questions. What time is it? Okay, we got about 15 minutes. So let's see if we got any additional questions. If we do, we'll answer them. If we don't, we'll get ready to wind this thing up. I'll let you folks get out of here a little early. Let me get out of here a little early and get my little self ready for another wealth building day tomorrow. Because like I told you, every day, in my opinion, is a wealth building day. I don't take one day off. Every day I'm looking to what? Multiply wealth some kind of way, right? I'm looking to multiply wealth every single day. And I recommend you guys do the same thing, right? Don't take any days off until you get to that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. That's when you take some days off. At least that's my opinion. Sweet Pea. Here's a question from Sweet Pea. Hello, Mr. Fane. When you dollar cost average, SPLG, FTEC, is there a dollar amount limit where you would stop dollar cost averaging? Is there an amount that would be too high to stop DCA? And thank you. Well, for me, Sweet Pea, I got to go, right? So with these investments, I got to go. And I don't stop until I hit that goal. So for example, if I got a goal of, $100,000, that's my goal, right? And I got my 50, 30, 20 rolling, right? And I say to myself, okay, $100,000 is my goal. How much money do I need to invest every single month at an 8% rate of return so that at some point in the future, I can build my net worth to 100K? How much do I need to invest every month at a hypothetical 8% rate of return? And the reason I'm using that is because over 90 years, S&P 500 has delivered 7 to 10% over a 90-year period. So I go in the middle at 8%. I feel comfortable over the next 10, 15 years, I can get an 8% return on average over that period of time in the S&P because it's done that and history says it's done that. So what I do is I figure out how much money do I got to put in each month, every year at an 8% compounded rate of return to get to and how long would it take me to get to my 100? Once I get to my 100, then I got a decision to make. Okay, Richard, you've hit your 100. Have your goals changed? Have you decided to go higher? Are you in a position with that 100 where you control 100% of your time? And if you were fired tomorrow from your job, that 100K would take care of you. That's what I got to ask myself. And if the answer is no, then I restructure and I make a commitment to my goal. And I stretch it. I change it. Now I'm going to 200. So I continue on the DCA. So the DCA and the investing, guys, is there for you to build wealth. Once you hit your wealth number, if you're good and you don't want to do that anymore, don't do it. But you got to make that decision, right? For me, I know down to the penny what I got to invest because I've done my future value calculation of money, and I know exactly how much money I want to have in my pot of gold at Inner Rainbow. I know exactly how much money every single month I got to put in investments at an 8 to 10% rate of return. Very conservative, in my opinion. 8 to 10% rate of return, and how long it'll take me to get there. And for me, take out NVIDIA, right? Take out NVIDIA. It'll take me about 10 years to get there just in SPLG, FTEC, MAG 7. If I take my big investment in NVIDIA out, right? Just take that out. It would take me about 10 years to get there with the money that I'm putting in. So I already know how much money I got to put in, projected rate of return, and how long it's going to take me. Now, once I get to 10 years, I look at the portfolio and I say, is that enough for me to start generating enough income to take care of me? Ain't got to make YouTube videos. I ain't got to do nothing else. Is it enough? If it is, boom, I'm good to go. I can continue doing this if I want to, but I don't have to, right? Or I can just stop and just, go get me a piece of dirt in the Caribbean on a nice beach, live out the rest of my days in peace by myself, just chilling. So you got to sit down, Sweet Pea, and figure out really what is your end goal? What are you really trying to accomplish? You got to put a dollar amount on it. You can't just say, I just want to be rich. Can't do that. You got to put a dollar amount, and then you got to back into that dollar amount with a plan. So if my dollar amount is 100, now I got to say to myself, well, how do I get to that 100? How much money do I got to invest at an 8% rate of return for how many years to potentially get me to the 100? Okay, I'm gonna do $2,000 a month. So you're gonna get to your 100 pretty quick. 2-3 years, you'll be at the 100 if you're gonna be doing 2,000 a month, because you're gonna be doing 24 a year times 5. That's 100, right? What's that? That's 100 right there. So at least in 5 years, you'll blow through it. So it depends on how much money you want to put in. I tell you guys, the more you put in, the faster you get to the end result. The less money you put in, it takes you longer. See, the more money I throw at these investments, I compound faster. The less money I throw at them, I compound a little slower. So it's all in how much money you put in, and for how long you put it in will determine how fast you get there, right? So hopefully, Sweet Pea, that helped. Hopefully I answered that question right. And at that point, once I reach my goal, I stop DCAing if I want to, right? I can just stop DCAing. See, when I get to 10 years, guys, I'm done with the stock market. I've told you guys that many times. When I get to 10 years, I'm done. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of that wealth and I'm going to move it out of the stock market and I'm going to move it into income that protects the principal. No fluctuations in the principal. The principal is protected, and it's going to start drawing income in the form of interest or rental payments from free and clear real estate, right? Treasury bonds. I get an interest rate on those treasury bonds. Principal is guaranteed by the United States government, right? I buy a piece of real estate. If it's in a good neighborhood where people have a desire to live, I'm protected. I get the rental income. I get these laddered CDs, right? Protected by FDIC insurance. Doesn't matter how much I put in there because it's going to be laddered at different banks all around the country. That's why they call laddered CDs. So I'm never going to be in a situation where any one of those CDs will be in excess of the $250,000 because they're laddered. They'll be all over the country in different banks, all protected by FDIC. That's the way you get around FDIC insurance. You ladder the CDs through a broker. You can go to somebody like like Bank of America or Merrill Lynch. You can go to your bank if they got a brokerage division. They can do laddered CDs that are FDIC insured, right? So those are the ways that I would take my wealth out of the stock market in 10 years and put it in income and protect the principal, right? And just live off the interest. All right, let's keep moving. Tracy. Hey, Tracy, how you doing? Hope all is well. Aloha, Mr. Fain. I just want to say thank you for creating a safe space for us wealth builders to come to every day where we can share, learn, and build wealth with other like-minded souls. I'm sorry some people can't accept rules which exist to protect us all. I think wealth builders are a special breed and we are built to overcome adversity. I hope we can all continue to show you that we are capable of living up to the high standards of being the best that we can be. There's no other club for me out there. I already know no other club will compare because the club is anointed and we are an optimistic crowd because of our leadership. We appreciate you so much. Thank you again for letting God use you to help us, and may God bless you and bless you more and more. Tracy, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, again, my whole reason for starting this community is so people could have a safe space to build wealth. That's it. I mean, from newbies all the way up to experienced people that have a heart for helping. See, it's a lot of people in here that are already wealthy, guys. They already got money, but they got a heart for helping. And that's why they're here. My thing is, let's just stick to building wealth. That's it. We're not gonna talk about anything else other than that. So thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you understanding that I'm really trying to make sure every person who comes in contact with us has a good experience. That's all I'm trying to do here, guys. Right? I'm just trying to make sure everybody has. See, I've lived long enough and I've been around long enough to know everybody don't believe everything Richard Fain believes. So I can't force my beliefs on somebody else that don't believe what I believe. Right? I can't. So let's not try to do that. Let's just stick to wealth. Let's just stick to ETFs, individual stocks, strategies, side hustles, you know, tricks, tips and tips and things like that. So appreciate you, Tracy. I thank you so much for those kind words. And I am 100% confident that we're on the right direction. 100% confident in that. All right, guys, we got 6 minutes, so let me do one more little chin check to see if we got anybody else in here with a question. And if not, we're gonna end this thing at 9:30. And but I do want to make sure everybody understands you do want to pay attention to the Fed meeting, which will be happening on the 6th and the 7th, which I believe is Wednesday and Thursday this week. Be on the lookout for that because the Fed will be making a decision on interest rates reductions. And the market believes that of like a 96, 97%, the market believes they're going to cut rates by 25 basis points. So be on the lookout for that. I would say kind of pay attention. You guys know I'll probably do a video on their decision on Thursday. And then the following week, I want to say on the 13th or the 14th, the following week, we'll have the CPI inflation report for October. So we'll get another look at inflation and what it's doing to continue to further solidify that the Fed will bring these rates down to neutral, because that's the game plan, right? And I keep telling you guys, the more interest rates come down, growth stocks go higher, because companies who borrow money to invest in their growth can borrow more money because it's cheaper to borrow, right? So as these interest rates come down, don't be surprised if you see growth stocks continue to go up. I'm not saying they'll go up in forever, but they do grow. I mean, history tells us when money is cheap to borrow from an interest rate standpoint, companies borrow it. And they take that borrowed money and they invest it in their growth. That's why they're called growth companies, because they grow. They want to grow, right? So just be on the lookout for Fed meeting this week. And then be on the lookout for CPI inflation report the following week. You'll have the PPI and you'll have the CPI. All good information for you guys to be aware of because it'll help you be a better investor, right? And then, of course, look out for opportunities, right? We're in earnings season right now, and you know pretty much all of the Magnificent Seven have reported, right? I think it started with Tesla and Google started off, and then the other four were last week, and then NVIDIA, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's November 20th, if I'm not mistaken. NVIDIA will be coming out with its Q3 numbers. Now, I saw a report where they said, I think it was TSM, was it? Was one of the foundries, I think it was Taiwan Semiconductor Company. I believe they had their earnings report, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I think I read something to that. But I thought it was good. Now I think also tomorrow, Supermicro Computer. I think Supermicro Computer is coming out tomorrow as well. Let me see here. I may be wrong. SMCI earnings date. When is it coming? Yeah, scheduled for November 5th, tomorrow. So if anybody has invested in that company, and I'm one of the people that did invest, and I want to, I know a lot of people are kind of having a little bit of heartburn with what's going on with this company, Supermicro Computer Inc. I don't have any heartburn with the company. I think it's a good company. I think, when you look at companies, sometimes auditors change. Now, hopefully there's not anything detrimental. I don't think it is. All the research I've done and looked at, I don't think it's anything detrimental. I think it's just maybe philosophy. I could be totally wrong. Maybe I doubt it goes to zero or anything like that. I think tomorrow, based on what Taiwan Semiconductor did, I think tomorrow they come out with a winning report. That's what I think. I think, now, that doesn't mean the stock gonna go up, because y'all know how that goes. The Wall Street aliens gonna do whatever they want to. But it would make me feel better as an investor if tomorrow they come out and they nail it, right? Because I know at some point the stock price goes up. When I go look at the analysts, what the experts are saying, they still got this thing somewhere over the next 12 months in that $65 to $69 a share range. Now, will that happen? Who knows? It could go higher, it could be lower. No one knows. Anytime you invest in individual stocks, guys, there is a risk to lose it all. There's a risk to go to zero. Matter of fact, any investment in the stock market, there is a risk that it can go to zero. So never invest money that you can't afford to not get back. Now, that don't mean, I've been doing this for 30 years and ain't nothing ever went to zero on me, right? I've been doing this for 30 years and I've never had an investment that went to zero. I've had investments that have tumbled. I can remember I bought Tesla back in 2022, right when it split for the second time. I bought it. And I be doggone, that thing went down to almost $104 a share, and I bought it at like $250 a share. It went all the way down to like $104 a share, guys. Tesla, right after I bought it. Guess what I did? I just waited patiently. Didn't sell it, just waited. And guess what? Within a year, it right-sized itself and I made money. So all I'm saying is, just because, Supermicro Computer is down right now doesn't mean it won't come back, right? All we can do is look at the company, see what the company is doing, making sure it's not business performance issues. Now, when I say business performance issues, I'm not talking about, oh, they told us this one thing and they put this other thing on the balance sheet, but they didn't tell us about that. They reclassified their debt. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, when I say business performance issues, I'm talking about the product they sell, what they do in their industry. That's what I'm talking about. Are they profitable still? Are they increasing their revenues? Are they increasing their net profits? That's what I'm talking about. When I say business performance, I'm talking about that. I'm not talking about some entry on their balance sheet or some, I'm not talking about that. Whatever they did with Ernst and Young, the accounting firm where they resigned, I don't know. But as long as their revenue is going up and their profitability is going up, I'm going to stay in the stock. I'm not going to worry about them having to reclassify nothing. If that revenue keeps going up, that profitability keeps going up, they will get through this. And I'm going to be on the other side waiting on them when they do. If they can't do that, then I'll cut my losses and I'll move on and take what's left and I'll put it in something else. That's life. See, I don't make investments that I don't have in the back of my mind I could lose it. I just don't do that. I always go into my investments knowing, hey, Richard, you can't control this. Something may go funny. And if it does, you may lose it. Good news is over 30 years, that's never happened. As long as I've been patient and I've just stayed the course. If it's a good company, just like I did with Tesla, purchased at 250, went all the way down to 104, guys. That's a lot of heartburn if you ain't careful. It went all the way down to 104 a share from 250. Didn't sell, stayed patient, kept doing what I was doing. Company just built itself back up. Year later, made some money, got out of it, did it again. So all I'm saying, guys, is just be careful when you buy things and they start going the other direction on you. Don't panic. Go revisit the company again, revisit the financials, make sure that here's what I look for, pretty simple, and I'm gonna get out of here. I know it's getting late. I'm looking at the top line revenue year over year. I'm looking at top line revenue year over year, quarter over quarter. I'm looking at profit year over year, quarter over quarter. All the rest of that other stuff, those are the two things I hang my hat on. Are they more profitable than they were last year? Are they more profitable than they were last quarter? Is their revenue higher than it was last year? Is their revenue higher than it was last quarter? Have they lost any market share in the niche or industry they serve? Where they sit in that niche? What are people saying about their product? See, when you start hearing people saying the product's inferior, we're having a lot of problems with the product, we don't want that product, that's when I get worried. Them having to have to make an adjustment to their balance sheet and reclassify debt a certain way, or they get slapped on the hand by the SEC, that don't worry me, because many companies have done that. You ever heard of Visa? They've been sued 1 billion times. And still a profitable company, right? They big payoffs and settlements every day. It ain't nothing happening to them. So I don't even want to hear anything about oh my God, they're going to zero because Ernst and Young quit. Who cares? They'll just get another auditor. Long as revenue's up, profitability's good, product good, I'm going to stay in. All right, guys, I'm going to get on out of here. Appreciate y'all for hanging in there with me. Let's see if we got anything left in questions before we tap out. I'm going to tap out a little early. If we don't got questions, I'm going to tap out. I think we got a couple, though. Here we go. Renice Taylor. Hello, Richard and Wealth Builders. Quick question. I know you invest in SPLG. VU is very popular and very similar. Is there a reason why you prefer SPLG? Thanks for being a blessing to us. Renice, that's a good question. I, for a long time, bought VOO for a lot of years. And just decided in 24 I wanted to try something different. So I went out and started looking for other ETFs that track the S&P. and I came across SPLG. Matter of fact, one of the folks in one of my videos made a comment in one of the videos and said, Richard, you should check out SPLG, man. It's a good one. So I took that person's advice. I picked it up. I did a side-by-side comparison, VU and SPLG. Now, don't get me wrong, VU, 900-pound gorilla, silverback, 1.3 trillion under management in VU over on Vanguard. You can't touch it. But when you look at actually what it tracks the same thing as SPLG, which is the S&P 500 index. So they track the same thing. Sure, one is a monster because of money under management and the name Vanguard, but it tracks the same thing as SPLG. Plus SPLG was trading at at that time, it was trading at like $58, $55, $58 a share. VU was well over 400. So I said to myself, okay, who do you think grows the fastest? Do you think VU doubles itself over the next 10 years from 400 to 800? Which one do you think who doubles their growth faster, SPLG or VU? And I decided to go with SPLG. I thought SPLG would grow faster. They track the same index, so the return is going to be the same because they're tracking the same index. Now it comes down to what? Expense ratio. It comes down to the name of the company that owns the fund. You know, it just comes down to now reputation. It comes down to what you feel the best with because they're tracking the same index. Return should be the same, right? They're tracking the same index. So that's not different. What's different is expense ratio, company, history of the company, money under management. Those things are different. I didn't care about any of those. What I cared about, I ain't gonna say I didn't care about any of those. I did care about the company. I wanted to make sure it was a solid company, a good company, and State Street was. Did my homework on State Street. Expense ratio 0.02%. VOO, I believe, was 0.03%. Of course, Vanguard is the 900-pound gorilla, so no comparison there. But still, State Street was a solid company, and the fund was solid. When I did my numbers on the company, it matched up perfectly with VU. And in some years, it actually beat VU a little bit. Don't get me wrong, it's not VU. VU's a monster. But for me, I wanted to try it. So I decided to go SPLG, and I'm not mad. 20% rate of return, baby. I'm okay with that. I guarantee you that's what VU got too. So I'm good. That's the reason I made the switch, is I just wanted to try something different. I felt like SPLG made sense for me. It was at a lower price per share. I thought it would double itself, triple itself, quadruple itself faster than VU. And so I took the chance, and I'm happy I did because I got a great return on it. So I'm happy with it. CIRE. No questions, Richard. Just wanted to tap in and let you know I appreciate your time, especially your thoughts for the day. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. And listen, guys, you know, we got 1,000 wealth builders in here, and I know a lot of y'all don't see 1,000 wealth builders because everybody, like I told y'all guys, everybody ain't you. Everybody don't want to participate in the community chat, or they'll come in the community chat and just read and take tips and nuggets and get up out of there. They'll come to the main Patreon page and post, not post, but respond, comment on posts, right? Or they'll come and join us. 230 people will come in and join us in the Q&A. So just because you don't see a lot of people in the community chat, 1,000 different people in the community chat, understand everybody don't operate like you. You don't know how many DMs I get a day. I get a lot of them. So a lot of people DM me as opposed to going to the community chat and dropping comments. They just DM me directly. Or they just peruse the community chat, look at tips and nuggets, best practices, get what they need, and go about their business. This community is growing every month, guys. People learn differently. People interact differently. Now, yes, I recommend people participate. But participating is not always about who makes the most comments. Who drops the most information is not indicative of if people are participating or not. If they're showing up and getting tips and nuggets, that's participation, right? If they're showing up to the Q&As every week, that's participation. If they're showing up to the main Patreon page where I'm making posts daily, clearly this person is showing up because they know about the thoughts of the day. A lot of people like the thoughts of the day. It just brightens their day to start off with a positive thought every morning. That's the reason I do it, because I know it helps me. It puts me in the right mind frame for my super day I'm getting ready to have when I can read something positive in the morning as opposed to something negative. I don't want the first thing my eyeballs or my ears come in contact with to be negative. I want it to be positive, right? So appreciate y'all. I'm going to get on out of here. I ain't going to keep y'all no longer. I appreciate you guys. How to go from nothing to everything. Wealth Builders live stream episode 27 is a wrap. Thank you guys so much for being so special and so unique. Remember, like I always tell you guys, there is nobody on this planet out of 8 billion people that are like you. You're the only one. There's nobody else like you. And in my opinion, that makes you super unique. That makes you super special, right? Super unique, super special. And you don't let nobody take that from you, ever. So I appreciate y'all, man. I'm going to see y'all tomorrow. It's going to be another wonderful day of building wealth. So get in where you fit in. Peace.